Hi everyone, my name is Nitesh, and in this video we will look at Edge Delivery Services Forms, what it is, how it fits into Edge Delivery Services, and when it makes sense to use it. Now this is the first video in a series focused on practical understanding of EDS forms, especially from a developer's point of view. Before getting into the details, let me briefly explain how this series is structured. So we will start with the basics. We will look into what EDS forms are. We will look into the architecture and request flows, how EDS forms fit into the Edge Delivery Services and Universal Editor ecosystem. We will also see different flavors of AEM forms and when to use which one, and also what you need to learn to build EDS forms. And then we will move into hands-on work where we will start by setting up the project, walking through the configuration and key steps so that we are ready to build a real use case, which is a product inquiry form that collects leads and submits the data to the backend. And that form basically includes some input fields like first name, last name, etc. A simple conditional flow to show how this rule works and how the rule editor works. We will also see the inbuilt validation that you can apply on the fields. We will also look into the reCAPTCHA integration that you can include in your EDS forms. We will do a submission to a backend endpoint. In this case, I'll be submitting it to a webhook. We will also see the basic styling to adjust the look and feel of the form. This will give us a solid foundation for both the setup and the core concepts. But first, let us try to understand what Edge Delivery Services is. So Edge Delivery Services is essentially the fast delivery engine for AEM sites. Instead of serving pages from traditional AEM published servers, content is delivered from the Edge network that is very close to the user. This results in extremely fast page loads and also help maintain the strong core web vitals and SEO scores. For content authors, the biggest change is how easy it is to create and update content. With Edge Delivery, authors can work in the tools they already know, such as Microsoft Tools or Google Docs, or use AEM Universal Editor for visual in-context editing. You can edit, preview, or publish, and the changes show up almost immediately on the live site. This means marketing and content teams don't have to wait on long release cycles to update the pages. And for developers, Edge Delivery introduces a modern front-end focused workflow. You work in a GitHub repository using plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build reusable blocks. When you push your changes to the Git, the system picks them up and make them available quickly, without Java on the published tier or without dispatcher configuration, and with much less operational overhead. Now, customers typically use Edge Delivery Services for sites where speed and agility matter most. An example would be marketing sites, campaign and landing pages, documentation pages, and increasingly full-fledged websites. The main benefits are faster sites, which improves user experience and SEO, faster content updates, allowing teams to ship changes in minutes, lower operational complexity since Adobe manages the delivery layer. So in short, Edge Delivery Services is the modern published tier for AEM built for speed and rapid iteration. Okay, so now that we have seen the overview of the Edge Delivery Services, the next question is, what about forms? On most sites, the most important interaction happens through forms. Signups, inquiries, registration, and lead generation. These are the points where users actively engage. AEM EDS Forms applies the same ideas that is behind the Edge Delivery Services: speed, simplicity, and authoring flexibility, specifically to forms and data capture. Instead of relying on heavy server-side form implementation that can slow down the pages, EDS Forms delivers lightweight, edge-optimized forms that integrate with backend systems but still feel as fast as rest of the site. For business and marketing teams, this means forms are designed and configured using familiar AEM tools or the tool they are working with, like MS Office or Google Docs. Form changes don't require large releases and can be published quickly. Backend integration in AEM are still available. And for the end users, the forms load quickly, feel responsive, and do not negatively impact core web vitals and SEO scores, especially on the mobile. For technical teams, EDS Forms is designed to work with most of the existing AEM integrations, services, and other Adobe tools. You can keep your backend logic for validation, routing, and storage while the edge delivered frontend handles the user experience. So you get modern, fast forms without rewriting your entire backend. So now the question is, when should you actually use EDS forms? Well, in practice, EDS form works best for marketing and campaign forms, contact and inquiry forms, registration and download forms, forms embedded within content experience. These are the scenarios where performance, iteration speed, and authoring flexibility matter most. For existing projects or projects with very complex or highly regulated workflows, traditional AEM forms may still be the right choice or used alongside EDS forms. The key is choosing the right version based on the use case you're solving. So now that we got to know at a high level about EDS forms, let us try to understand types of EDS forms available to us. There are two main types of EDS forms based on how they are authored: document-based forms and universal editor-based forms. Document-based forms are defined inside documents, typically Microsoft Office tools or Google Docs, and then rendered as forms on EDS sites. You can also do submission to the spreadsheets. In this model, author works in tools they already know. A form is represented as a structured block in the document. When published through EDS, that structure becomes a live edge-optimized form. You can also define the basic business rules in your spreadsheet. You can also configure the submission so that the data is submitted to spreadsheets. With Universal Editor-based form, the form is defined and configured directly inside AEM using the Universal Editor. Authors can open the page in Visual Editor. They can add a form or fields directly on the page. They can configure labels, validation, and submission setting visually. Now both approaches use the same EDS delivery model, and the key difference lies in where the form is authored and managed. We will cover this topic in more detail in the next video. For the rest of this series, we will focus on Universal Editor-based forms. And for that, let us try to understand what Universal Editor is. From a developer perspective, Universal Editor is a framework-agnostic editing layer added on top of your frontend. You still build pages and form components using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then wire in the Universal Editor so AEM understands what parts are editable. You still keep control of the markup and behavior. AEM adds editing capabilities. From an author perspective, this looks like a modern page builders. Authors can add and configure forms directly on the page, see changes instantly, and publish without touching code. This model works well because responsibilities are clearly separated. Developers define the structure and behavior. Authors manage content and configurations. And that's the model we will build on in the upcoming videos using a real-world example of lead capturing. So let's try to recap on what we have seen so far. We have looked at what Edge Delivery Services is and EDS Forms, the two main authoring approaches, and how Universal Editor fits into the picture. In the next video, we will zoom into types of EDS forms and focus on the first real decision you need to make on a project. That is, when EDS forms is the right choice, and when something else makes more sense. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.